Hi, it's Steph, and we've officially had our first frost here in Massachusetts. That means it's time for me to dig up my dahlia tubers and get them ready for winter storage. I garden in a zone 6, and for us, dahlias are not winter hardy. Because we get freezing temperatures over the winter months as well as a lot of precipitation, if I were to leave my dahlia tubers in ground, they would likely die and then I would no longer have those beautiful dahlias. I have been growing dahlias for the last 4 years or so, and this is the process that I have to take each year. The recommendation is to wait until you have had your first frost because that is supposed to thicken the skin on the dahlia tubers. So we recently just had our first frost only a couple of days ago, and I had started tagging my dahlias a few weeks back. And tagging is important so that you know which variety that you have going into storage so that when you plant them out next year, you have a good idea of where to put them according to their height. Because dahlias come in many beautiful colors, varieties, and heights. So you don't want to plant a short dahlia behind a taller dahlia where it would get shrouded and not get any sun and it wouldn't grow for you, right? So tagging is important for that reason, not only to identify the variety that you have, but so that next season you know where to plant that dahlia to get the most blooms out of it. So if you live in a warmer climate, I would say probably a zone 8 and up, it is possible that you can leave your dahlia tubers in ground and they will return beautifully for you next season because your climate is warmer. But because we can't do that here, I'm going to show you what my process is for storing my dahlias. Now, I'm not an expert, but I'm going to share with you what I've learned over the last 4 years of growing them and what methods have worked for me and what hasn't worked. The easiest way that I found to start this process is to first cut back all of the old stems and dahlia foliage. You can see that I've already started there on the left-hand side. All of that orange ribbon that you see is the tape that I use to tag my dahlias. So now I'm going to go ahead and continue doing this side. I'm going to clean up all this foliage, all of the stems, and that will open up this area so that it'll make it much easier for me to use my garden fork to dig up my dahlia tubers. All right, now that I am all done with that part, I am on to digging up my clumps of tubers. In the past, I've used a regular shovel to dig them out, and more times than not, I would end up cutting into some of the dahlia tubers, which isn't ideal because by cutting them and damaging them, it's possible that you can introduce disease, which could ultimately kill the tuber. So I did finally go out and buy a garden fork this year, and this is what the recommendation is to dig up your dahlia tubers. When I take them out, I will show you what they look like, but to me, they look like a little clump of potatoes. And so I think this is going to work a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and work on getting that part done. I'm going to try to go a little bit out from where I think the tuber is going to end, give it a little bit of perimeter space and start loosening up the soil around it. My goal is to try not to hit the tuber. Oh yeah, I think this is going to be a much better way to do things. And here we go. Clump number 1 is out. And you see how that looks like? It looks like potatoes to me. All right, on to the rest. I am all done digging up my dahlia tubers, and I have to tell you that using a garden fork was amazing. It made all the difference. I have to compare it to when I was digging them out with a shovel, which was really hard and, like I said, potentially damaged my tubers. This, I just stuck it into the soil, loosened up all the soil, and they popped up so easily with hardly any resistance. So a garden fork is definitely the way to go. I didn't even know what I was missing all of these years. And because I was new to using a garden fork, I didn't want to spend a ton of money on it and make a huge investment. So what I did was I just bought this one at Harbor Freight Tools recently. I had gone online to do a little bit of research about garden forks, and this one was highly rated. It had like 4.5 stars, over 600 reviews. So I figured for just over 20 bucks, I think it was like $24. Let's give it a shot, and it made my job a breeze. So now all I have to do is wait for my dahlia tubers to cure. Some people, when they dig up their dahlia tubers, they will wash them off. I don't do that. I just let the dirt kind of dry, and I shake off as much as I can when I'm lifting the tuber. And as the tuber dries, a lot of that soil will just kind of fall off. So that is the process that I take. So that's it. So now I'm going to let these dry overnight, and then tomorrow we will package them up for winter storage. Well, it's been 2 days since we dug up the dahlia tubers. I meant to do it yesterday, getting them packed up and away, but it was a beautiful day and we were tired from working out in the yard. So here I am, 2 days later. I stored them here in my shed because the forecast was threatening rain, and I didn't want them to get soaked by the rain because my goal was to get the soil dried off of them so that I can get them packed away. So methods that I've used in the past, I have packed my dahlias for winter in some shredded newspaper that I would periodically moisten with a spray bottle, and that worked okay. I've also used the pine shavings or the animal bedding, and some mixture of shredded paper with some vermiculite. And those methods all worked okay, but I found that the method that I used last year worked the best, and quite frankly, it was the easiest, at least for me. I am now just storing my dahlia tubers in some paper grocery bags. So I am going to go ahead and do that and show you what it looks like. All right. Here they are, and I think 2 days is perfect to have them kind of curing a little bit, because in the past I've left them for quite a few days, maybe up to a week, and they start to get kind of shriveled and really dehydrated, and I just really rather store them away at this stage when they still look nice and plump. Most of the soil on my dahlia tubers are nice and dry. Like I said, I store these on the, I guess people call it the dirty method. I don't wash them. I just let the dirt dry off, and then it just kind of flakes off really easily. So I'm going to cut the stems a little bit down more so that it makes it easier for me to pack them away. And then I'm going to label the front of the bags and throw them in my tote. Slight change of plans. As I was processing these dahlias for storage, I was cutting these stems, right, so that they would fit in the bag. And look what I noticed. There's still quite a bit of water in some of the tubers. Now, as I was removing these from the soil and digging them up and cutting the stems, I had spilt them all out like that. But the further down I go on the stem, the more moisture there is in some of them. So I'm going to give this another 1 or 2 days to let them finish drying out, making sure there's not any moisture within the stems, because I don't want them to rot. And then we'll get back to packing them away. It's now been 2 more days, so 5 days total since we dug up the dahlia tubers. And they should be dry enough now, both in the stem and tuber-wise, for us to get them all packaged up. It is starting to get pretty cold, down to the 30s at night, and I don't want to leave these in my shed because it's unheated for them to risk freezing and getting damaged. So we're going to go ahead and get them wrapped up for the season. It's a really cold and wet day here in New England today, so because of the rain, I couldn't process my dahlias outside. So what I did was I just moved my car out and set up this table here with a tarp to make cleanup a little bit easier. And here's an update on what the tubers look like after they've been curing for about 5 days. You can see that the stems have dried out, and when I turn it upside down, there's no more water coming out of it. The dirt has dried and it is mostly flaked off at this point. So these are at a good point for me to go ahead and store them. If for whatever reason your tuber still looked like there was some moisture in it, either in the stem or with the soil surrounding the tubers, etc., you would want to let them cure for a couple more days to make sure that they go into storage pretty dry, so that you don't risk growing any mold. That went pretty quickly, and I was able to process all of the dahlias that I had in my gorilla cart, with the exception of these 4 here, because when I picked them up, I noticed that there was still a little bit of moisture on the stems, so I cut them down a little bit lower, and I'm going to give them another day or 2 to finish curing and having the stems dry, and then I will get them packaged away. Here's where I'm going to store my dahlia tubers for the winter, right inside my unheated garage. And for the past couple of years, I've been storing them right in this corner in a tote with my packaged dahlias inside. And it's worked out really well for me. Now this tote does have a cover, which I will place on top lightly. I don't want to snap it because I want to allow for air circulation, so I don't want it to be airtight. And the temperature in here stays at about 45 to 50 degrees all winter long. But if it does get towards freezing, I will move the tote from this corner to the other corner in the garage where it shares an interior wall, which stays just a couple of degrees warmer. But I know the temperature because I have this device here that's called a weather station, and I place it right on top of my tote, and it will tell me what the temperature is in this corner so that I can make sure that my dahlias are staying at an appropriate temperature during storage. Well, I just realized that I have some more dahlias out here that I need to dig up and store for winter. These 2 planters looked absolutely beautiful on my patio this summer. The variety of dahlia is the HS date, and it's really pretty. So I have to take these into the basement and get them dug up and dried up, I can store them over the next few days. But that is it for today's video. Tell me, have you tried storing your dahlias in some paper bags yet, and how did it work out for you? I have found that of all the methods that I've tried, this one has been the easiest, and you know, I just let the dirt dry, flake off, throw them in the bag, and they are done for the winter. I have not been brave enough yet to leave the dahlias in ground here in my zone 6, although I have been told that some people have tried it with a really thick layer of some leaves for mulching, and they've had most of them come back. Maybe one day I'll try it with a few, experiment a little, but I'm not there yet. So for now, I will keep storing my dahlias and enjoying them year after year. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button, and please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And we'll see you soon.